Thanks for joining me once again. I'm taking you along out into the field, and we're in Los Angeles at a very famous location. We're at the Hall of Justice in downtown Los Angeles, the cornerstone for fighting crime in this city since 1925. This has been such a landmark for standing up against crime in this city for so many decades. And this has been the home for the LA County Courthouse, the coroner's office, the sheriff's office, and of course, the LA District Attorney's office, which is in the headlines right now, and you're getting ready to find out why. Nathan Hochman, a former federal prosecutor and assistant U.S. Attorney General, has just taken the reins from the embattled former DA George Gascon. Gascon's tenure was marked by controversy and criticism, particularly over his progressive policies that some argued went way too far. Hochman's victory, with over 1.9 million votes and a nearly 20-point margin, is a resounding statement from the voters that they want a more balanced and effective approach to the law. So let's dive in and explore what this new chapter means for Los Angeles and beyond. You've been sworn in how long now?
Let's see, December 3rd.
How long does it feel?
It feels like the longest and most thrilling weeks I've had in a long time.
I'm a big supporter and very excited that you're in this job, so I'll just out myself right up front.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What do you think resonated most out of the messaging that you were delivering with the city? Because this is a deeply Democratic. Vice President Harris carried the county in a significant fashion. What is it you think landed so strongly with the people?
So I think safety is the crossover issue for 2024. And the reason I know that is that I've talked to people across the political spectrum, ultra-left liberals, independents, conservative Republicans. I spoke to Black, white, Latino, Asian groups, different community organizations and neighborhood associations from this entire county. And when I spoke to parents, when I spoke to homeowners, when I spoke to law enforcement, firefighters, first responders, people who really are concerned about criminal justice issues, turns out that everyone is concerned about their safety. And what they saw in our county is that it wasn't working, that they had a DA in place who had enacted basically blanket, extreme, progressive policies, but progressive policies that said to criminals that certain crimes and certain criminals would not be prosecuted, notwithstanding the facts or the law. And I reject those extreme policies, but I also reject the extreme policies of the other end of the pendulum swing, which is mass incarceration. Where I come down is the middle, and I actually call it the hard work middle or the hard middle, because it requires work. You got to look at each case individually, the individual defendant, the crime committed, the impact on the victim, to determine who the true threats are to our public safety and need to be behind bars. Those are often the repeat offenders, but just as importantly, the ones that aren't. Your first-time nonviolent offender, if they violate society's laws, they have to pay that debt back to society. But that's where community service, restitution, pay it back if you stole something, or a diversion program that says that if you have a serious drug addiction that got you to commit the crime, we're gonna give you a choice. You can go to prison, or you can do an 18-month rigorous rehab program that if you succeed one day at a time, will wipe that crime off your record. That's what the hard middle, proportional, individual approach actually will accomplish.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I've been on the air here in LA County for 20 plus years at the Paramount lot and talking to between 250 and 500 audience members a day and listening to what they say. And when we looked at a deep dive on the polls nationally coming into this election, number one issue seemed to be affordability, and a real close second was safety and security. And it just seemed to me that that wasn't what people felt in LA and LA County, that they felt like that criminals were not being held to account, and that didn't seem to be a priority.
That's absolutely right, because I actually believe you can prioritize public safety, but also enact real and effective criminal justice reform in the same breath, that these are not mutually antagonistic concepts. that a DA who's got the focus to do both at the same time can get it done. So for instance, if you're a juvenile, someone under 18, who for the last 4 years you've been told the DA's office will not prosecute you if you steal just under $950, it's not a shock that we saw on social media 12 to 15-year-olds bike to a 7-Eleven, ransack the place, run out with stolen goods, basically pack them in their pants and bike out. They are going to be told that they will be held accountable. Doesn't mean they're going to go to state prison, but are you going to pay it back? Absolutely. You're going to go through the process? Absolutely. We'll hold you accountable for your actions because we want to deter you from committing future crimes. Because my goal is not to fill the prisons to the breaking point. If anything, that's a failure of the criminal justice system. My goal is to deter criminals from committing those crimes in the first place, thus saving a whole lot of victims in the process.
Yeah, and it's expensive to put people in prison. It costs the taxpayer a lot of money. And I think one of the most fundamental psychological principles is you don't reward bad behavior. And so if somebody comes in and they do smash and grabs as a gang that rushes in and just picks the store clean, but it's under $950 each one that you stop, I think walking away with no consequences is outrageous. On the other hand, I have to say, as a father of 2 boys, and I just feel so blessed that they're both grown now. Neither of them ever went to jail. They didn't get into drugs. They're both fathers now and educated, doing well. I'm glad I raised them in a different time. But while I wouldn't want these young people to get away with this, I also would hate to see a 16-year-old get a felony conviction that stopped him or her from being able to get a job as an adult for something they did when they were 16 years old and had been seduced into something when their brain's not even through growing till they're 25. And the last part that grows is the neocortex, which is the ability to have foresight and see the consequences of your actions. They've got to be held accountable, but I didn't feel like it should haunt them for the entire rest of their life as a convicted felon with no way out of that. And that's what you're talking about. There's a path back on a case-by-case basis.
Absolutely. I have actually 2 boys and a girl that I've been fortunate enough to raise with my incredible wife. And it's the same message. Kids will make mistakes. They just will. You know it, I know it. Any parent out there will absolutely know that. But they have to be told where the lines are. And if you cross them, that there are consequences, and they're meaningful consequences. But this is where the hard middle approach comes to play. If you're that first-time, nonviolent 16-year-old, and you were stupid enough to steal a couple $100 from a 7-Eleven, you're going to go through the process. But that process may not necessarily include having a lifelong felony or a misdemeanor on your record if you go through the whole process.
Right.
There's notions of restorative justice, where you would actually meet with the victim, discuss what went on, figure out what the appropriate punishment should be. Maybe you're going to work every Saturday or Sunday for the next year until you pay it back. These are notions that, in the appropriate case, are restorative justice that won't be saddling you with that record. So hopefully you can learn from this mistake.
I think I was 16 in Roland Park, Kansas once and got a speeding ticket. And I've gotten speeding tickets early, when I was younger. But I had a judge that said, you know what? I'm not going to fine you, but you are going to paint the pole on every speed limit sign in Roland Park, Kansas, every Saturday from 8 in the morning till 5 o'clock for this month. And it was February, Kansas. It gets cold. And that paint was like putty. And I had to get up every Saturday that month and paint that silver paint on those signs. And that's the one ticket I remember. And I didn't pay the fine, but I worked every Saturday for 9 hours painting those signs and worked my way out of that. And then he tore the ticket up and said, okay, you're done. I remembered that. He made me get in the system and work my way out of it.
And that's the point, that if that had not occurred to you, then you would have been sent an interesting message that you could do something, violate the law, get away with it, And then maybe next time you amp it up just a little bit more. And your friends see it and they say, well, you know, if my friend's not being punished, then I'm going to do it too.
Yeah.
And that's where you get 50 kids going into a 7-Eleven, thinking that there's no problem with it.
Yeah.
And again, if we send that message to young people, eventually those teenagers become people in their 20s and 30s. The crimes they might be thinking about of committing start to increase as well.
Are these gangs recruiting young people and telling them, do this, bring it back to us, you're not going to get in trouble?
I'm the first DA in history that's actually personally prosecuted. In this case, it was a deputy sheriff and a team of them. We took down 26 of them as part of a big task force called Operation Big Spender.
How do you handle that? Poor sleep impacts productivity, focus, and energy, making it difficult to tackle daily tasks effectively. Tossing and turning through the night leaves many feeling drained and unmotivated. Beam's Dream Powder offers a solution. This science-backed healthy nighttime blend is clinically shown to improve sleep, helping users fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up refreshed without grogginess. Dream combines powerful, all-natural ingredients like reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin, creating a blend designed for consistent, restful nights. It has become an essential part of nightly routines for those seeking better sleep. The ultimate sleep refresh for the new year. Try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Dr. Phil and use code Dr. Phil at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Dr. Phil and use code Dr. Phil for up to 40% off. Are these gangs recruiting young people and telling them, do this, bring it back to us, you're not going to get in trouble?
Oh, it's worse than that. There used to be policies in our district and by my predecessor that would never actually prosecute a juvenile for an adult crime, no matter how serious that crime is. So what you saw is that a lot of gangs were giving the guns to the 16 and 17-year-olds, because if they ended up killing someone, they would be out in the juvenile system by the age of 25. If they were 18 or older, they'd be out in their 50s or 60s. So again, these messages that were being sent by my predecessor were emboldening criminals. They were emboldening juveniles to violate the laws, to search where the line was finally going to be enforced. That is a very dangerous recipe, and that, I think, is what the voters of Los Angeles County responded to.
I'm very involved with law enforcement, the officers on the street, and support them chapter and verse. They're not perfect, they make mistakes, and I'll call it out when they do. But overall, I think these are great men and women, almost 1 million nationwide, that get up every day, put that uniform on, and stand in the gap to keep the rest of us safe. Do you believe that your approach here will improve morale, stop the early retirement, stop people looking for other jobs, and aid in getting recruitment back into law enforcement? How do you handle that?
I do believe that this approach will help law enforcement recruit, and it's direly needed here in Los Angeles County, where we're down 1,200 deputies for the LA Sheriff's Department. We're down over 1,000 officers for the LAPD. But I think that the reason it'll help them recruit, as it will even help my own DA's office recruit, is that they'll understand that the DA now has their back. The DA will be their partner. And it doesn't mean that if someone, and I believe it's an outlier officer, crosses the law and commits criminal conduct, that we will tolerate that for a moment. I'm the first DA in history that's actually personally prosecuted. In this case, it was a deputy sheriff and a team of them that were stealing drugs, guns, and money from drug dealers. We took down 26 of them as part of a big task force called Operation Big Spender, and sent a strong message that criminal conduct by law enforcement would not be tolerated. However, I'm also the co-founder of the LA Sheriff's Foundation with my brother, and we have raised the Sheriff's Department hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last several years to get them necessary equipment. In the process, we have met hundreds of officers, and here's what I'm here to tell you. The overwhelming number of these officers, when the bullets are flying in a building, They're running into the building to keep you, me, and our families safe. Those officers deserve our respect, our admiration, and as DA, they will have my partnership.
Have they lowered the standards of what it takes to become a police officer or a sheriff's deputy in LA County? Have those standards been lowered?
My understanding is no, and I applaud them for not lowering the standards. That's in part why they are down the officers. They're looking for really good officers who they're going to give a badge and a gun to protect us, and I applaud that.
I was with the sheriff's department through the night, like 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, when they went onto the UCLA campus to clear out the illegal encampments on that campus during the pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian demonstrations. They had taken a lot of abuse from those people, and what struck me the most, standing there at 2:30 in the morning, I said, "What's your number one priority?" And every single one of them gave the same answer. We want to get everybody home safe. Protesters, demonstrators, students, activists, we want everybody to get home safe. But I was so impressed that even in the face of the abuse they had been taking, they just want everybody to get home safe. We just want everybody to wake up tomorrow and everybody be safe. And that, to me, showed such great professionalism and restraint in what they were doing. And that's the quality that we have here. It's impressive.
And that's the quality that they are going to continue to seek. And that's why they're not going to lower their standards. You know, interestingly, on that particular protest issue, my opinion is that, well, I'm a huge supporter of the First Amendment. And if people want to go on the sidewalk and say things I think are vile and reprehensible or just generally disagree with, that's their right. I'm actually going to protect it. But when the words turn into illegal conduct, if they want to go on a college campus and vandalize that college campus, if they want to go ahead and engage in violent acts as they did in front of a synagogue, attacking Jews, or for that matter, any vulnerable population here in LA County, the DA needs to say loud and clear that they will be held accountable for those illegal actions. We will hold hate criminals accountable. If they turn their words into illegal conduct, that accountability will start today.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that message is resonating, obviously, with the voters in LA County.